So we're going to do a bit of feedback on this assessment from last lesson. So we were looking at the units for volume and also capacity, a bit of revisiting our work on volume and capacity that was done in numeracy lessons on first and second year. So question 1, how many millilitres are there in 10 litres? So most of you, I think, knew the answer to this, knew that there are 1,000 millilitres in 1 litre, so therefore 10 litres would have 10,000 millilitres. So your answer for this one should have been answer D. Right, to change from litres into millilitres, the process that you would be doing would be timesing by 1,000. So second question, calculating the volume of a cuboid. So the expectation is that you would know the formula and should have written that down. So volume is length times breadth times height. You're simply multiplying together 3 units here. The units are all the same, so we're multiplying. Doesn't matter what order you write them in, so 10 times 5 times 3, and your answer for that, if you do 3 times 5 you get 15, times 10 would give you 150, and of course because the units were in millimetres, your volume units will be cubic millimetres, so 150 cubic millimetres would be answer C. Number 3, what's the volume of a cube? So in a cube you're only ever given one dimension, so that dimension is the length, which is known as 4. So when you do a cube, the volume is simply length times breadth times height, but because length, breadth and height are all the same, you can say it's like length times length times length. And in this case that would be 4 times 4, which is 16, times by another 4, and that in fact does give us 64. The units to begin with were centimetres, which means our volume units are cubic centimetres, so it should have been answer A that you selected there. For question 4, this one is just about your knowledge of the units. Now it says which of the following is not a measure for volume? So clearly cubic centimetres, so any kind of cubic unit is a unit for volume. So even this last one, which is saying inches, now inches is, a lot of people when you ask them about their height, they'll say I'm 5'3", that means 5'3" inches. So inches on its own is an old unit, it's not a metric unit of length, but it is a unit of length. But inches cubed would in fact be a unit of volume. And the other one that you should associate with volume is millilitres, because that's to do with capacity. So they are all they're all volume units. However, millimetres is just a length unit. So that's the one that you should have gone for. Right, so which of the following is not a measure of volume? So those ones are all volume units, so we're simply looking at the length one, so that should have been answer B. So sometimes you need to go through and look at things carefully when you do this. Right, calculate the volume of this cuboid. So again, looking for the formula, length times breadth times height. You're multiplying together 11 times 4 times 5. The easiest thing to do there is to do the 4 times 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 11, so 2 times 11 is 22, and then times by 10 would be 220. Everything was centimetres, so of course our volume units will be cm with a wee 3, cubic centimetres. So when you look through this, you can clearly see 220 appears twice. One of them is cm with a little 2, so square centimetres. The other one cm with a wee 3, so cubic centimetres. So clearly because it is a volume, right, calculate the volume of the cuboid, then clearly it is the cubic centimetres that is the correct one. So it should have been answer B. Square centimetres, remember, is the units for area. This one here are the dimensions of a bathroom sink. What is the maximum capacity of the sink in litres? So you first of all need to work out the volume, and you'd work out the volume in cubic centimetres first of all. So we would do, again, the three numbers multiplied together. So we've got 500 times by 300 times by the height of 200. And you can see you've got 6 zeros there, so you have 6 in your answer. And then you're going to do 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 5 is 30, and then the other 6 zeros. Right, and that would be 30 million. Now that is 30 million cubic centimetres. However, it's talking about capacity, so the capacity units that we should be using are initially millilitres. Remember that cubic centimetres and millilitres are exactly the same thing. So 30 million cubic centimetres is 30 million millilitres. So you're simply replacing cubic centimetre with millilitres. And then to change from millilitres into litres, you should know that there are 1,000 millilitres to make a whole litre. So we are dividing this number here, 30 million, by 1,000. So our answer would be 30,000 litres, which is answer A. So you need to give yourself some feedback, particularly that last one was the one that most of you did tend to get wrong. Have a look at what you didn't know, what you didn't write down, and be making a little note of it, so that if you come across a question like this again, you'll know how to tackle it. So if it's talking about capacity units, you first of all get the units in either cubic centimetres or cubic metres. Then you convert cubic centimetres into millilitres. They're the same thing. And then if you're asked specifically into litres, you would need to divide by 1,000.